Kia ora and welcome to our Q&A for this evening, the last marathon. We're in my lounge room today and the sun is setting in the beautifulness of Auckland, so do be aware of the light changes that are happening in our studio today. But I'd like to please welcome Anton and Mari here virtually to New Zealand, and also the director of the film, Ken Arlidge, who is a born Kiwi as well. So that's made this film really special, being the last marathon has actually been part of our New Zealand short film competition and section as part of Doc Edge Festival this year. So welcome. Now, Ken, we'll start there with you. How did you first hear about Anton and Mari's story, and how did the film get started?
Well, you know, Anton and I'd heard about Anton as being quite a force of a producer through various friends of mine, fellow directors, ADs, and ultimately Anton and I ended up working together on a shoot, and I was duly impressed with his skill as a producer. And so it was during that time that he had some difficulty walking on my shoot, and I think he can speak to the timing of that, but that was the beginning of the diagnosis with ALS. And so we built a friendship as a result of that, and at some point we spoke about doing a GoFundMe, which intended to be a short 3-minute piece about his condition with ALS and Mari as a caregiver. And the intent with that was to raise money as a GoFundMe campaign. And because of his popularity as a human and their relationships with so many people in our business, the target was met very quickly before we finished the film. So we had discussed the path forward, and Anton and Mari and I had all decided that we should continue filming and just keep documenting Anton's journey through ALS and Mari's journey as a caregiver. And that is ultimately where we ended up with the last marathon. And so let me hand over to Anton and Mari and see if they'd like to add to that. But that was the journey from a GoFundMe to the project that you have in front of you.
Yeah, so I'll just mention that Anton is now nonverbal. So in our short, he was starting to lose his voice. We did actually put in some subtitles in there so that we could make sure people could really understand, hear what he had to say. And over the course of, a year now, he's now, for the most part, has lost all of his speech. And so he does communicate now with an eye tracking device called an Iceberg. And so with that, he can text and email and do all sorts of things. He can tell me when he has to go to the bathroom or he's thirsty. Just look at the little speaker, and so I can hear it no matter where I am in the house. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that. My understanding and what I know about him and Anton's relationship is that they just were very, very tight. They were friends, not only coworkers, but they were genuinely, they liked each other. Mm-hmm. They were friends, and so we were honored when Ken sort of raised his hand and said, I want to help you, and this is my contribution. This is what I can do for you. And so he put together this amazing story and brought it to us, and we were all in.
Wonderful, thank you. And look, amazing this technology that you've had access to allow Anton to still have his voice and your voice there. And Anton, I want to congratulate you on your success as a filmmaker, and particularly on your 2016 Emmy Award as well. So you've had a fantastic career there, and obviously working with Ken, this has built this movement towards this film. And look, you've both done plenty of work behind the camera. But Anton, what was it like for you and Mari to put your personal lives on screen this way?
So Anton, thank you so much over a few of these questions, so we had an opportunity to answer some of them. So I'm just going to help him out here just 1 second so he can actually share with you that answer.
Question 1. Hi, and thank you for allowing us to share our story with you as told through the eyes of Ken and the last marathon. So, after I am done, I leave the metamorphosis of our documentary to Ken on how it became much more. To answer your question, I have been a producer for roughly 30 years. I love that piece of my life. It never felt like work, even though I worked 60, 70, sometimes 80 hours a week. I truly love it. I'm not shy when I shine the limelight. I am most comfortable being quietly in charge. That said, everyone in newfound life of ALS doesn't allow me to be complacent. So when the time came to have the opportunity to potentially reach others, it was a done deal and we had no qualms about it. I think in part it was because of my blog, where I let it all hang out without any restrictions. It finds no holds barred. It made no sense to sugarcoat the reality of our lives today. Whatever the past stayed in the rear view mirror, we focus on today's reality. I'm sure Mari will speak of this, so I won't get into the biggest part of our lives. I hope I answered your question, and thank you for your great question.
Thank you, Anton. So this has been your personal life on the screen. Mari, would you like to add anything to that yourself?
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because, Anton had to come to an abrupt stop with work, something that he loved so much. And that was a real difficult component to really do embrace. And so by doing the documentary, it allowed him to be able to continue some of that work and to continue to be able to, do a little bit behind the camera, even though he was in front of the camera. So I think it just was a easy fit to be able to tell his story, our story, our family's story. And it was something that he really was very passionate about.
Absolutely. And look, Ken, how long did filming take? And what were some of the biggest challenges working over a long period of time and seeing the changes that were happening to your friend and fellow colleague Anton?
Yeah, I'd have to defer to Mari to know exactly how long it was, but I think there's a point that Mari and Anton both bring up that if you go on Google Maps, you see my vehicle parked outside their home. so that was kind of representative of how much time. So it was. I think I would come in for a couple of days at a time over a period of, I think almost a year. I think maybe a little bit longer, right, Mari? And so and it's interesting because all of the filmmakers on right now understand that the process of documenting something allows you to have a mission and emotionally allows you to be a little bit in check, a little bit, I wouldn't say detached, but a little bit in check. So for me, my mission every day was to go there and work with my friend Anton and with Mari and really document their journey. I think the process of doing that allowed me to be active and to be honest, it's even though there were moments of extreme hardship, the one continuous truth of this was that there's this great spirit in Anton, right? This amazing force of a man, this amazing, beautiful spirit of a man, and then the love between them. And Mari as just this incredible caregiver. So it was empowering. I mean, that was the truth was this empowering beautiful relationship and the love at the center of this. That was always the constant. There were ups and downs, and there were moments where, I think over the course of those 2 years where I shed a tear in a corner, and that was impactful. But I noticed that for other colleagues who saw Anton less frequently, when they saw the change, it was more impactful for them because they were not embedded as I was over a period of time. So I think I was able to ride the wave with Anton and Mari and document it. And there's a certain strength and beauty to that perhaps made me empathetic, of course, but allowed me to travel with them. And that was helpful. So there were days of extreme struggle. Absolutely. That was and the evolution from the fundraising that led to getting help with caregiving, and seeing that transition from me as a filmmaker, as a friend, that was impactful to see what was needed to shift the needle for Mari as a caregiver and what that meant for Anton in terms of the help he got. That was impactful to ride that. I think that was a great turning point. And, I think that it would be ideal for all people suffering from ALS and all caregivers to see what that looks like, because when prior to that moment, in the thick of it, wow, the struggle for them both, especially for Mari as a caregiver, that was it was pretty hard, and that was an incredible moment to witness. And we see that where in the film where she's using the Hoyer lift when Anton fell, and just the sheer physical effort it took to get him back in the wheelchair, that was palpable. Very powerful moment. Yeah.
And look, absolutely, you've nailed it on the head for what I thought when I first saw this film. It is about the ALS and your journey with that. But to me, what stood out most was the love between you, Anton and Mari, and the dedication to each other. And that was so powerfully and beautifully shown through this film. So thank you for allowing us to see that and understand that beauty of in health and sickness as well. So it was really well captured, Ken. Thank you. Anton and Mari, for you, what was the most important thing that you wanted to convey in telling your story?
Question 2. Another great question, and my answer is twofold and short. I wanted ALS families just starting out in this nasty and hellish world that they are not alone. The other reason I thought it would be the right tool to educate people who are not familiar with this disease. Years ago, when the Ice Bucket Challenge was making its way around the country and world, most heard of ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, so very many people had no idea of the severity of this disease. I certainly didn't know. Thanks again for a great question.
Yeah, just to sort of add to that, we participated in the Ice Bucket Challenge way back several years ago. I'm sure, a lot of people are familiar with that, remember that. But at the time, ALS didn't exist for us, and so we just thought we were participating in something, a good cause, but really had no idea what we were doing, really what ALS was, where the money was going, and, we just were participating. And, unfortunately, when Anton got diagnosed and then he started to realize, wow, looking back at our participation and what it meant to us now is unbelievable. But one of the beautiful things, though, about the Ice Bucket Challenge, which most people don't know, is that the awareness that brought to people, to this country, to the world, the money that was raised was actually dumped into a lot of research. And so from the Ice Bucket Challenge directly created a variety of pretty phenomenal drugs that are now in the pipeline. Mm-hmm. And so just because of the Ice Bucket Challenge. So it's kind of nice that we were able to participate in that. And fast forward, doing some advocacy work, we were able to help, get a law passed in December of 2021, which would allow for the FDA to sort of loosen some guidelines, be able to bring out some of these drugs that the Iceberg Challenge has helped to create the funding. And so, in a roundabout way, we are, in a sense, the recipients of that. And unfortunately, with Anton, in his progression, he is pretty far along, but, he still has a voice through his eye gaze, and he can still share his story with people. He can still fight for, getting better access to drugs, especially experimental drugs, because really how we look at it is, what do people with ALS have to lose? The life expectancy is 2 to 5 years. It's such a short period of time, and oftentimes when you have a potential drug, it takes years, sometimes 10 years, 15 years before that will actually come to market, and most ALS patients will be gone by then. So for us, it's a fight. It's a real commitment to be able to help push these laws, help change these laws, help find the money, help to push these drugs out to market so that, maybe one day we'll find a cure. At least if we don't find a cure, at least it maybe will make it a livable disease. We'll do anything.
Yeah, and Rachel, I think that was a really powerful moment of discovery for me in the film, and also for the viewers, is that the pill that Anton is taking when in the bathroom is only adding a few weeks to his life. That's it. I mean, that's what's out there right now. And so the concept that medication is going to have to be studied and held back and maybe a decade before it's available. I mean, I think it was something where the journey to approve something for sunscreen was the same amount of time for ALS. I mean, that was just so off. So it's remarkable. Again, I mean, so much courage to Anton Mari to do this and really be one of the tools that's impactful to actually lead to this change where this Act for ALS allows for experimental drugs to come on the market and so the potential for a major shift to happen is now on the table as a result of the work that Anton Mari did and other people in the ALS community. That's very powerful stuff.
Absolutely. And you talk about the Iceberg Bucket Challenge as well, and started as such a small thing, and it's an international. It was here in New Zealand as well, and really opened up to the world. The conversation around the ALS and supporting that community, and these things do take time, but this film that you've got here as well, it's a film about your lives, and it's also currently being shown half across the world in New Zealand. When you started making this film, did you have any idea what would become of it, and what sort of impact you want to have with this?
Mari, do you want to take that first, or Anton? Yeah,
I'm going to have Anton. He put together a little answer here.
Question 3. Yes and no is my best and honest answer. As I alluded to earlier, this started out for different purposes, which I hope Ken clarified earlier. When we started, it changed to what was submitted to a film festival in your beautiful country. So, it has morphed, and we have 2 specific purposes. First one being what I said earlier. It's for all of the ALS families, and the secondary purpose is to attract a larger following to film festivals. If push comes to shove, then we abandon the festivals and release as wide as we can. However, we are letting ALS families use the password to protect. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Anton. Anton, just in addition to that, the final question there, the film looks back at your entire life, your achievements, your struggles. I mean, wow. the achievements of the marathon running, I'm absolutely amazing. What was it like to seeing all of that on screen and looking back at it all?
Questions for. I tend to guess that questions sometimes from friends. I always felt like I had several lives already. This is another thing to check off my bucket list, or perhaps my to-do list. Thanks to AA, I learned to stay in the day, in the moment, in the now. I don't romance my past experiences, nor do I deny they were a part of this man's life. They all rounded out the man I am today, which I am now with my defects of character and many shortcomings. And I could go on and on, but I removed myself from that. Now that doesn't mean I don't think about all the reasons like driving, running marathons, working, wiping my own tush, feeding myself, getting dressed on my own, and the list would take up the entire Q&A session. What really gets forethought is all that my wife does for me and still has other duties like caring for our boys, house bills, doctor's appointments, and everything you can imagine. Then add 50 more percentiles to the formula. She is an amazing person. I got very lucky. We met at the Los Angeles Marathon, and she said yes a year later. I guess I have to compartmentalize all aspects of my life before, during, and planning help for Maury and the boys after I am gone. And of course, plan my memorial party, which is a luxury to so few of us. Thanks.
And that's just what you say, isn't it? As Anton says, you make good days great, no bad days allowed. And a wonderful mantra there, Marie.
Yeah, so Anton, being the producer that he is, he has to produce his own memorial. He wants to control every aspect of it, and so I'm sure it'll be quite spectacular.
It will be a very special party, I'm sure. Absolutely. Produced by one of the best filmmakers there is. Absolutely. Look, we're going to finish there. Just one more question, really. For audiences moved by this film, what is the best way that they can help or give back to the ALS community?
Well, I really do feel like it's educating themselves about ALS. One of the things that we have been told is it's a very rare disease. Although, every time we turn around, someone is always saying, oh, my brother has ALS, my neighbor has it, or I know my uncle had it, or everybody seems to be affected in some way by it. And it's not only just ALS, it's any, neurodegenerative disease. It could be Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or, MS. They're all very similar. They're in the same family. Unfortunately, ALS is just a little bit more of I kind of figure it's more of a crueler disease in the sense that it's a shorter time frame. There's really no treatment or anything for it. It's just sort of waiting, and as the body deteriorates, you just sort of adjust to each as each part of the body begins to fail. So it is quite cool. So it's really about just helping people just learn a little bit more about it and know that so many more people are affected by it than we realize. And with that awareness will then come more contributions to research. The more awareness, the more people talk about it, the more it's in the news, the more we'll start to see some change. We start to see more drugs being pushed through. Now that's very promising. We're very excited about it. Working with the developer of this drug, and it's for review with the FDA in September. So we are very excited about it and optimistic that it will actually be approved. And it's a real game changer for the ALS community. And so that wouldn't have been pushed through if people didn't know about it. And so the more we talk about it and we push it through, and we got the FDA to take notice, it makes a huge difference.
And that just shows the impact of this film, The Last Marathon, that it can have on the community. And Ken, just to finish up there, talking to filmmakers, anyone that's thinking about doing such a personal story around anybody in their lives, I mean, what do you say about that? Because it's not an easy thing to do.
Wow, that's an interesting question. I've worked on projects where I had to research Alzheimer's, but I never was so personally invested in something like this. And so I think for me, the journey to this film with Anton Mari was one that began as a collaboration with a most dynamic producer in our business, a friendship that formed, and then ultimately a friend who got sick. And then for me, and I think perhaps this is true for many filmmakers, the journey into this was, it was not planned, but it opened up because of my relationship with Anton and Mari. And so I think that any time that we can use our ability to tell a story as impactful as this, I think we should embrace it as filmmakers. And what's really interesting for Anton, Mari, and I, when we started on this journey and we got to that point where it moved beyond a GoFundMe and became something else, and we sat together and said, should we keep filming? What should we do with this? I think that we thought, well, let's just keep filming the struggle. And we had no idea at that point where this would go, what this would become, and how powerful Anton and Mari would become in terms of their role in impacting the ALS community. And so I think what came out of this was a story that I don't think had been told in a sense that this was a very honest and brutal look at what happens day to day in the world of ALS. Mm-hmm. And so if that can help someone else who is an ALS patient and understand what the journey is ahead, and also look at the spirit of what Anton is. I mean, the fact that, despite this, he never stops. He keeps on running, as we said in the film. And for others to be inspired by what Mari has done as a caregiver, to see that despite the struggle, you can still have a voice. You can still shift the needle. I mean, that to me was something we never knew, and we lived and breathed it, and it became the journey for us, and ultimately what this film became. So I think that embrace it as a filmmaker anytime those things present themselves to you, because that is the power. For all of the films and commercials I've worked on that have been product driven or telling a story, this has been such a rewarding journey because it's for my friend, but it also is for the ALS community. And that to me is something that I get to carry forward. And so I think, embrace those moments. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Anton, Mari, and Ken, for making this really special film and allowing it to be part of our festival here at Dock Edge in New Zealand. And we wish you all the best with the impact that this documentary can continue to make with the ALS community worldwide. Thank you.
Thank you.